and gentlemen, my name is Jeff Crane. We are at the Bid Angels Tokenize event in Las Vegas 2025. We are literally at the mansion that Mike Tyson used to have, where tigers used to roam. And I'm sitting next to my new friend, Simon. Simon, it's such a pleasure to sit down with you, man. The one thing I notice about you is your smile. You're always freaking smiling, dude, and I love that. Is that a Polish thing or what?
It might be, right? I feel like I'm a very positive person, and so it's always the first icebreaker, right? Is this a smile before anything else, before you open your mouth?
I have a friend, a really dear friend in Utah. His name's Pavel, and he's from Poland. And he told me at Christmas time he wished that he could have fruit. He was in an area where he didn't get a lot of fruit, and he said in his room he had Coke cans and candy bars from the United States that he would collect, because down the street there would be an international market. And he moved to the United States, and I looked at it and I'm like, man, when I was a kid I'd have 14 presents and all he wanted was an orange. And sometimes we just need to be humbled a little bit, because you know, especially people in the United States, we think like we're the only ones that exist. So I'm so grateful to know that you come from like humble beginnings, but then you came here to the United States, to Michigan, and then you became a success. So give us a little bit of your background, Simon.
Yeah, sure. So actually I moved here from Poland when I was about 5.5 years old. Towards the tail end of like the school year. So I came in saying, the first sentence my stepdad taught me is, "I'm a good little boy." And that's it. So I communicated through jokes and laughter and being the jokester of like the kindergarten, and then kind of snowballed from there. But because I didn't know English, I retook kindergarten to learn English and then everything else. But anyway, fast forward, I think I bring have a unique perspective on life and things because of that first generation immigrant upbringing, but also because I grew up in Flint, Michigan as well, which is more so now known for like lead in the water more than anything else. What I grew up knowing it as was it had actually the highest median income in the U.S. In the 80s and part of maybe first year of the early 90s because of the automotive industry. So it's a really like a American success story to a failure, within a 20-year time period. So we moved out of there to Ann Arbor, but I always loved the state of Michigan. I went to the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. From that, I was in the business school. Cut my teeth right out of college on Wall Street. So I worked in investment banking at the Royal Bank of Canada. That was very interesting, especially working for an international bank in the United States. You're getting a lot more like global deal flow, so you're getting exposed not only to deal making in the U.S., but how things are looking at across border perspective, whether it's working on some things remotely in Canada or for the Australia team, what have you. It was great, but it was right around the time of the subprime mortgage crisis that took place, and couple that with it was the time where the average analyst worked 90 hours a week, and then on your bad week you're working over 120 hours, right? So you're like never seeing the sun and all these different things. And I was like, there's got to be a better way. Obviously, I know that I'm more than capable in the industry, but I want to move over to more traditional tech or something else. So I moved over to enterprise SaaS technology, actually as a salesman, then became a sales leader, selling into the Fortune 500 and Fortune 1000 financial products and omnichannel marketing products as well in the space. That journey took me to Los Angeles from New York. The last company I worked for in that capacity, I was bought out in 2016, and as part of the buyout package, like, hey, you can move back to New York or you can stay here and have the buyout package. If you want to stay with the company, the parent company, move back to New York, because I'm going to stay here. And that's when I really got into my entrepreneur journey. But I learned of Bitcoin back like in 2011, 2012. But traditional finance, traditional Wall Street scared me away from it, because they're like, hey, if you touch it, play with it, or anything, smell it, you might be going to jail, or you're going to have an audit on your financials for the rest of your life, things like that, right? So I stayed away from it, even though I could have been one of those super early adopters. But anyway, I got in actually through online gambling in 2016 or 2015, but lightly. You keep a little bit, you sell a bit, but you keep a bit, so on and so forth. But 2017, I was running a company called Launch Team, and we were launching businesses. We were a full-scale 360 growth architect for new scale venture businesses. And a project came across our desk that was a ICO, initial coin offering, and it was the first successful supply chain and logistics company on the blockchain. And so we helped them, and because of my financial background, I knew how to architect a deck for fundraising and how to bring in advisors for the Fortune 1000 and everything else. We raised 36 million in about 6 weeks.
Wow.
And then a year later, they got shut down.
Those were the days back then, dude.
Those were the days back then.
2017, 18?
2017.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. And then,
wow, bro.
And then the project ended up getting shut down by the SEC within 2 years.
Sure.
Yeah, because it just went too fast, too quick, too many people.
Yeah.
Some really known names were a part of it too, like Kevin Harrington and others that were on the advisory board. But it cut my teeth. But that made me catch the bug of like, hey, cryptocurrency and blockchain are the future.
Yeah.
And although you can decouple the conversation from what each does and how it serves, they both serve a purpose.
Let me take a step back 1 second. So
yes.
you were around during the .com era, right? How old were you during that?
During the .com era, I was
You're a little bit younger
14.
than I am.
Yeah, I was born in '84.
Okay.
So like 14 to
that was a great
17.
year. I was a freshman in high school in '84, by the way. But what's interesting is you had this standardized kind of world, and you had people who went to school and they had MBAs and all this other stuff. And then all of a sudden you had these people on the internet who were like, hey, I have all this money, I have no business experience, but I have this technology, and let me build a business. And then there was the dot-bomb bubble. You had the ICO. These guys came in and like, hey, I want to replace fiat. Remember those conversations?
Of course,
people would get on stage and they're like, is the FBI around? Because like, what's going on?
Yep.
And then that kind of crashed out.
And there were plants at all these different conferences.
Yeah, absolutely.
By like the CIA or FBI or whoever it is that's listening in. Like,
that's
hey,
right.
What are you guys doing? Are you guys compliant?
Yeah.
Who's your auditor?
Yeah. There's like, if they were thinking like they're disrupting the countries, like this is a country within countries. And then you had the NFT world. And it seems like there's these cycles. But what we have is we have these people, I don't know what you would call yourself, but people who kind of gatekeepers and they're guards, and they're like, look, let's do this right. And we can do traditional business, checks and balances, but then bring in the new tech. So right now, where do you fit? Like, obviously you're hanging around princes and you're bringing people in, and you're clearly a great connector. What would you say your role is right now? And can I ask you a personal question? Because you're a dude, I can ask this. How old are you?
40.
Okay.
Yep.
Young. Love it. You're 40, but you've had a lot of life experience and you've been to school. What stage in life are you right now at the age of 40? Where are you at?
I'm at the stage where I feel internally like still like I'm 30, but I have the wisdom of the full 40, I think, and then some probably, because almost everyone has been burned in some way by this industry, or knows bad actors and those that even hide in the shadows, but they're friends with everybody and whatnot. And so there's a lot of lessons learned. But I am seeing now with AI coming online, the convergence of Web3 and AI and blockchain and humanity, and actually understanding like that we have to really start getting smart really quick and how we do things and go about things. Otherwise, the technology eventually can kind of take over the humanity aspect of it as well. So,
well, I would say, and you probably can't say this, but you're in your prime, bro. You really are. You're literally in your prime. And also you can like see through walls, because you can probably see somebody coming a mile away that is a little sketchy, that doesn't fit into the crowd, that maybe somehow doesn't have clout or the speed of trust, right? And so now what I've seen also is that you're surrounding yourself like David Chen, just really great characters, and then you can kind of now operate.
Yeah,
right?
So we have what we call inner circle. And
tell me about that.
Yeah, so in our inner circle, it's basically almost like trust pods or masterminds where we actually work on different businesses. So like now I'm a serial entrepreneur, right? I'm in actually my like kind of physical brick and mortar business is working in treatment centers, like drug and alcohol rehab centers. But then I also am a growth architect for some of the biggest projects in the world. I've worked with over 60 projects since 2017 across press, fundraising, operations. They've raised over $700 million. I've been, if not an advisor, then an ambassador, or actually extension of the team. Fractional CMO, fractional COO, fractional CEO in the DeFi boom,
Amazing.
NFT boom, this and that. So I've seen it. But one of the things that really hurt me in the space is that I have morals. I have ethics. And many do not have that. Or when they see their first million or their first 10 million, their world changes, and they're willing to leave everything aside and just go after money. And I just can't do that. I don't want to compromise on my ethics, So that has obviously compromised me in different ways, because it's like if you're not in that world, then you're out of it. But that's fine, because everything's happening for a higher purpose and higher power. And so now I am able, and everyone that knows me, you build your reputation, right? In a small space, it's very quick to lose your reputation as well. And so we're building a reputation to basically tie things together. And I think I've been able to really reflect on and understand what are the key factors of mass adoption of cryptocurrency and blockchain technology, and what's going to take it into that real cultural revolution where we start bringing in more of the masses and the normies, and those younger generations likely come first, right? Like 15 to 30 years old, so on and so forth. But there's a place for everybody in this, but it also has to coincide with the government. It's not anymore 2016 Mad Max anarchy versus the government, which I actually thought about, like, yeah, it's nice, take it to the man, but you mature, you get out of that phase. You're like, we have to work together, but the governments and the politicians have to meet us in the middle of that conversation as well. And I think that's really happening with the current administration. And,
I do too. Like literally just yesterday, we had Chuck, the former commissioner of the IRS of the entire United States on stage. And when he got up there, he literally broke the mold. He looked like somebody who was from the IRS, but he didn't act like it, and he didn't speak like it.
And I know Chuck.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
I actually met him here last year.
Yeah. I mean, what
amazing
a phenomenal guy, right?
And he wants to get involved in everything now.
Right?
He's like, Simon, what project are you working on?
Isn't that incredible?
Can I be of service? What about this?
We almost have to pinch ourselves, like, are you kidding me? Like,
right.
That is incredible. So, whereas before, if you go back, right, to the 18s and 17s, people were talking about decentralization as if they wanted to break off and live on their own little island. No, man. Let's all live together. I wanted to touch on one more thing. We have
and many have broken off and lived on Puerto Rico, right?
That's right. I'm so glad you brought about Puerto Rico.
So some of that, became reality in a way.
We've got only about 30 seconds left, but I wanted to touch back on this thing about, people who transact and people who create relationships. Could you do me a favor? In that camera, maybe give some advice to the people who are coming into this space now of kind of how to purport themselves. Like give them some advice on how they could show up for the best success. Could you do that for them?
Yeah,
okay.
And it can be like any level from novice to experienced,
whether they're experienced in the real world or whether they're just starting out in life. When they jump into our industry, they're now creating a new identity because everybody's watching. How should they show up as a human being? Is what I'm asking you. And look right into that camera and talk to them so you can give them some hope and maybe some ideas of, like, when you show up somewhere, do this and it's going to open doors.
Yeah.
What about that?
Yes. So my advice on really getting integrated into the industry and understanding the power players and the factors and how you might fit in is just really do a lot of digging yourself and start trying to match up your own personal values and where you want to go in life, and see how those align with the industry, what the industry is building, and who's the people behind that as well. So it is good to put some pen to paper and actually really have some deep thought about things. At the same time, it can be easy to not only drink at the fire hose, but get drunk off the fire hose when you're taking this information in from everywhere. Twitter Spaces and X nonstop, and then everything else on Rumble and the web. And so you have to really start looking at the information you're taking in as well, and knowing what are the best sources of information that they don't have alternative agendas, right? So I think CoinDesk is a great one. Michael Saylor, some of the trusted people that like everyone trusts and that they don't have like any tarnished reputation. There's a reason they're trusted like that for a reason. So start following those sources, and then start trickling in and try to really understand the 100,000 foot view and a 10,000 foot view, and start wherever you're most comfortable, but do both so you understand how the macro affects the micro and micro affects the macro, and where we're going in society and culture and life and technology. And that will unlock gates in your mind to be like, hey, Coinbase is doing this, but what if they added this to make it more like PayPal? No one's really doing that. Maybe I should start a business there. Or I love what they're doing with in Bitcoin Layer 2 in the DeFi space, and some other elements of different things. Let me join a company that's doing that and really learn that way, because you'll always be leveling up. So be leveling up in life through the people you surround yourself with, You are the product of your closest 5-6 people, outside of from your family, of course, everything else. Be leveling up in the information you're taking in, level up in understanding who the people are around you and what their motivations are. And finally, understand when it's time to say no sometimes. We all say yes too much. Learn to say no more than yes to really focus in on where you should be in your life.
I'm going to tell you something, Simon. In my entire life, it's always been like this. It's usually the last thing somebody says in a conversation that to me is the most important. Just say freaking no. Like, that is so beautiful. And we all know the misnomer, practice makes perfect. That's not what it is. It's perfect practice makes perfect. And so you hang around people with the trust. Maybe if you see Simon, you shake his hand and ask him a question. And then lastly, how do you feel about this one? Serve. If you see somebody who needs a door open the freaking door. If a lady's carrying a bag out to her car and she needs to get a plane, ask if you could carry the bag. If you serve, you'll be known as the person who will be invited. Isn't that how that works?
Yeah, I call it Pay It Forward. And there's a great movie called Pay It Forward on that. There's a great movie studio that does that as well called Angel Studios.
Yeah.
So if you can incorporate more of that into your own life and into our culture in general, everything will become better around you as well.
Well, Simon, it was such a pleasure. Yeah. Thank you so much. I know you were about to head out, and I grabbed him like, come on, dude, we need to talk with you. And Joyce Chow's like, you got to talk to Simon.
I'll just go into the pool.
I doubt that. That's not true. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for this time today. And Simon, good luck and all success, brother.
Thank you.
All right.
It's been a pleasure.
All
Cheers.
Right.